on Saturday, and you have to wait a couple days to play, and I think there's anticipation. Obviously, the games in spring training means something, in a sense where guys are trying to get ready and guys are trying to make a team, but this is where it really counts, and guys look forward to that competition.
You always had a tremendous amount of trust and faith in CC, but what was it about what you saw from him this spring that makes you believe he's going to be more of the guy he was earlier as opposed to the guy he had last year?
I think it was the location, the fact that his changeup wasn't cutting, his fastball wasn't cutting. He was consistent with those two pitches, and his changeup is a huge pitch for him.
Joe, you just worried that he misses because maybe this
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. When, at times clubs, in a sense, get into roster crunches, and sometimes you have to put a good player on waivers and someone that, I've said all along, it's someone that we've been very fond of, a great guy in the clubhouse, and it's tough, but we'll see what happens.
His place the last couple of years has been somewhat firm as a backup. Where did he lose his spot?
Well, I think that, the signing of Brendan Ryan, number one, to back up Jeet, a guy that played very well at shortstop last year and has played his whole career. And the fact that when he was sent down, he played mostly shortstop in a sense and didn't play as much as second and third as some of these other guys. And that's probably the situation that hurt him most, I would say, would be Brendan Ryan.
His defensive issues, did they ever really play his out himself, where you couldn't necessarily trust him to do something?
Well, I thought he got better, but I just felt that with the experience of someone like a Solarte who's played more second and third, and a Dean Anna who's played all around, we chose to go with those guys.
Joe, with Jeter here and obviously at Cano previously, why didn't you guys have Nunez play around the infield in the minor leagues so he was more prepared?
Well, I think when he first came up, they always anticipated him being a shortstop. So he played shortstop because that's where you looked at he would be. And then the one year we tried to move him around, and it was difficult, so we wanted to get him back at shortstop, getting used to being a shortstop, and knowing that there would be a time that Derek would eventually retire. He might be the guy to replace him, but we felt that he was more consistent at short, and that's why we put him there.
Do you think that maybe it would benefit Nunez to move on to another team?
I don't know. I know people sometimes talk about it's greener on the other side, but sometimes it can be more difficult if people don't know who you are. George, I'm not sure what he did today. I had to check so much last year, I didn't even think to do it today. I don't think he's really doing many baseball activities yet, though. I think so. Knowing that, this could possibly be the last time he ever plays in Houston, it's definitely his last opening day. So I will watch carefully and see how he's handling it, and seeing, to remind him that, you need to really enjoy this, because it's hard to take your uniform off. The one thing about Derek is he really enjoys playing the game, but I want him to soak up some of the other things too as well. Maybe a little bit.
I know you always say you don't pretty much change the spring numbers, especially for veteran guys. What was encouraging for you about the show?
It was the last week where I thought that he started to let the bat go. He started to swing it with authority, and he wasn't necessarily protecting his wrist at all. And I saw him hit some balls hard and take some really good swings, and that was encouraging to me. More left-handed than right-handed.
I wonder if there was any last year, or if you feel any this year among the players or among the organization to try to do something special in Jeter's last year?
I can't say that I necessarily thought that with Mo, because I think what we're trying to achieve every year is the same thing. It would be different if it was club, you know, that didn't have the history that it did. You know, maybe trying to send him out a winner, but we're trying to be winners every year. So I don't necessarily think people think like that, because the goal has been the same every year, whether it was Jorge's last year, Andy's last year, Mo's last year, and eventually be Derek's last year, and after that it'll be somebody else's. So I think the goal is the same every year.
Joe, outside of CeCe, your entire, every position on the field is different. How much of a challenge is that for you as a manager, from last year?
I'm familiar with the players, but I'm not as familiar as I'm going to be as time goes on. But I got to tell you, I wasn't real familiar with our players last year either. And that was ever-changing. But take away last year in a sense and the years before, I was pretty familiar and knew the signs when they needed a day, or if they were telling me something indirectly. And that's something that I'll have to pay closer attention to.
You guys were pretty cautious with Ellsbury, but do you have any lingering concern or doubt about that cap?
I feel pretty good about it, where he's at. He has not talked about it. He was able to play the games when we needed him to play, so I feel pretty good about it.
Following up on that one, Toronto AstroTurf is always tough for players' legs. We're wondering how important it is for you to keep Ichiro in the game situations and keeping him sharp. Maybe that's the place we've seen him.
Oh, I think it's really important. I think, some of the age of our outfielders and wanting to keep them fresh, I think we could have a pretty good rotation here, and I think it's really important.
So you mentioned the players from last year, it was kind of a rotation. Do you ever forget how kind of privileged you are to work for a team that goes out and spends almost half the billion?
No, I don't. I think about the opportunities as a manager that you have here from a winning standpoint, the opportunities as a manager that you have in the players that you're managing. I never forget that, and I feel very blessed to go through the things. It seems like every year that I've been here as a player or a coach or as a broadcaster, but you always see something really special, and you don't forget those things.
Joe, you mentioned that you had to remind Derek periodically to enjoy this. Do you think he's capable of doing that?
I do.
He's been conditioned for so long to not really enjoy it.
I do. I think he understands. I think probably watching his other three buddies go through it and maybe discussing it with a little bit with them, I think he'll be able to do it.
You said some CeCe almost significant defiance. I have a question you can go back to last year. You were lost in the round, it seems to be around. Do you find CeCe has such a defiance for him that he can also show people that he can win a different way?
Yeah, I think he's in a much better place this year than he was last year, because I think he was questioned so much about his velocity and where he was at, and I think being able to finish last year and going through the spring that he went through, a normal offseason, I think he's in a much better place, and I really believe you're going to see a different CeCe.